My daughter wanted to meet her dying grandmother, and I told her, over my dead body. Becca got a letter from my mother saying she was dying of cancer and wanted to meet her granddaughter before she passed. I found it on Becca's kitchen counter when I came over for dinner, and my whole body went cold. Becca walked in and saw my face and asked what was wrong. I said, "Where did you get this?" She said a private investigator had tracked her down and delivered it to her apartment. I ripped the letter in half and told her she was never to contact this woman. Becca's face twisted with confusion, and she asked why I never told her she had a grandmother. I said, "Becca, please trust me when I say that woman is dangerous and you need to stay away from her." She screamed that I was selfish and controlling and kicked me out of her apartment. The next week she called and said, "Grandma has stage 4 cancer and she's dying, and her only wish is to meet me before she goes. How can you be this cruel?" I begged her not to go, but she said I couldn't control her anymore, and she was flying to Nevada whether I liked it or not. I panicked and booked a flight on the same plane without telling her. When Becca landed in Reno, I followed her to the rental car counter, and she turned around and saw me, and her face twisted with rage. "Are you stalking me now? What is wrong with you?" I grabbed her arm and said, "You don't understand what you're walking into." She yanked away and said, "I understand that you kept me from my family my entire life, and now my grandmother is dying, and there's nothing you can do to stop me." She drove off, and I followed her to an address outside the city. It was a property surrounded by farmland with a big white house at the end of a long driveway. I parked behind Becca and ran toward the porch where she was already knocking. The door opened, and there she was, my mother. She looked older, but I would have recognized her anywhere. She smiled at Becca with so much warmth and then saw me, and her smile didn't change at all. Both my girls came home. Becca turned around stunned to see me, and my mother pulled her into a hug before I could stop it. Inside, my mother sat us down and started asking Becca questions about her life like any normal grandmother would. Where did she go to school? What did she do for work? Was she seeing anyone special? I sat there watching my mother collect information about my daughter, and my skin was crawling. Becca kept glancing at me with disgust like I was ruining everything. My mother asked if Becca wanted to see childhood photos of me, and Becca said, "I would love that because my mom never shows me anything from her past." My mother left the room, and Becca hissed at me, "See? She's sweet. She's dying. Why are you being like this?" I said, "She's not dying, Becca. There is no cancer." Becca rolled her eyes and said, "You're actually insane." My mother came back with a photo album and sat between us on the couch. She flipped through pages and stopped on a photo of me with 3 other girls around my age. "These were your aunts," she told Becca, "my other daughters." Becca asked where they were now, and my mother's face arranged itself into perfect sadness. They all passed away young. Such tragedies. I couldn't take it anymore. "Becca, those girls didn't die. Our mother sold them." Becca's head snapped toward me like I'd lost my mind. My mother laughed softly and said, "Oh honey, your mother has always had such an imagination." I kept going. "She sold all of us, me and my sisters. We were currency to her. I was the only one who escaped." My mother patted Becca's hand and said, "Your mother had a difficult childhood, and sometimes she confuses her nightmares with memories." I said, "I was 17 when I climbed out a window with you in my arms. You were 8 months old, and I ran for 3 days before I found someone who would help us." My mother's smile finally cracked. I said, "6 months later, she tracked us down and tried to grab you from a grocery store parking lot. I saw her reaching into your stroller, and I screamed so loud the whole lot came running." My mother stood up and walked to the window with her back to us. I said, "We've moved 11 times because every time she finds us, we have to disappear again." Becca was shaking. She whispered, "Mom, why didn't you ever tell me?" I said, "Because I wanted you to have a normal life." My mother turned around, and she wasn't pretending anymore. Her face was cold and flat and empty of anything human. "You were always the difficult one. Your sisters understood their place." Becca stood up so fast the photo album hit the floor. My mother looked at her and said, "You look just like your Aunt Catherine did at your age. There's a man in Houston who would pay a fortune for a face like yours." I grabbed Becca's hand, and we ran out the front door and didn't stop until we hit the police station. They found evidence of 12 missing women connected to that property. My mother died in prison.